Welcome back to another edition of the Futbol Forever podcast, a podcast where we talk about the Liga MX and everything going on around Mexican football. All right, boys, sometimes you gotta improvise, man. Today I didn't get the chance to record in my usual setup at my desk with my microphone in front of my monitors. That's the comfortable way to record. Right now I'm actually recording from my vehicle in my lunch break. But sometimes that's what you gotta do, man. An express setup. You know, I'm recording with a lavalier microphone and my smartphone. So, hey, you gotta figure it out, man. Sometimes that's what you gotta do. And I definitely did not want to skip out on the podcast because there's plenty of stuff to talk about. The list for El Tri for the upcoming friendlies against Costa Rica and Chile was released yesterday as I'm speaking, and the Clasico, man. The Clasico was this past weekend, so there's definitely plenty of stuff to talk about, as well as the Mexicans abroad. You have El Chucky Lozano with PSV playing in the Champions League against Inter Milan, and then you have Porto defeating Galatasaray. So I wanted to touch on all of these topics. I don't know if I'll have enough time, but yeah, man, here we are. That's why you might be wondering why the audio quality probably isn't as good. That's why, man, because I had to find a way to get the podcast out to you guys. So I hope you don't mind all that much. My apologies. But anyways, let's get to it, man. First topic at hand is the Mexican national team list. Oh man, just like in the last one, the one we saw for the friendlies versus Uruguay and versus the US. This one is also contrived of a ton of young talent, man. A ton of young prospects. I don't want to say talent because some would argue that's not talent. But yeah, this one is kind of the same. So let's start, man. The goalkeepers: Hugo Gonzalez, Raúl Gudiño, Gibran Lahoud. Defenders: Eric Aguirre, Edson Álvarez, Jesús Angulo, Néstor Araujo, Gerardo Arteaga, Jesús Gallardo, Diego Reyes, Luis Rodríguez, and Juan Carlos Van Rankin. Jose Carlos, not Juan Carlos. Jose Carlos Van Rankin, the Chivas, man. And then midfielders: Jesus Dueñas, Marco Fabián, Jonathan González, Eric Gutiérrez, Víctor Guzmán, Roberto Alvarado, Isaac Brizuela, Jesus Corona, Jürgen Damm, Javier Güemes. And then for the forwards, Raúl Jiménez, Irving El Chucky Lozano, Henry Martin, and Ángel Saldívar, the Chivas, man, as well. So I understand some of the criticism. I was going to say outrage. That's a little bit too exaggerated. Some of the criticism, some of the displeasure with this list, because there are certain names in this list that don't really make sense if we're looking towards the future. If we're already planning, and if we're already looking towards the next World Cup cycle, Qatar 2022, then names like Luis Rodríguez, names like Jesus Dueñas, names like Marco Fabián, and, Javier Güemes maybe, some of these don't make sense because we don't know for sure, but one could assume that these guys are not going to be part of the next World Cup cycle. They're not going to be part of the next World Cup. I doubt Marco Fabián makes it to the Qatar 2022 World Cup. One would hope that we already have, some other talent, another player to step up and take his spot, because he's 30 years old right now. So, at 34, making it to Qatar, it's not impossible, but one would hope that there are other players that step up to the plate in his position. Same thing with Luis Rodríguez and Jesus Dueñas. One that, I heard questioned was maybe Brizuela, because also of his age. By the time we get to Qatar 2022, it's going to be tough for him to make it, and there probably will be other players better than him in that position. But I think for what he has shown this season with Chivas, in my opinion, up there with Van Rankin, who also got the call-up, he's been the best player for Chivas this season. It's between him or Van Rankin, in my opinion. So I think this one is deserved for Isaac El Conejito Brizuela. But what I'm left wondering with is where is Héctor Herrera? I know Chicharito is, he hasn't been playing a lot with West Ham due to a flu, or I don't know what's going on with Chicharito, but he hasn't been seeing action with West Ham. So I assume that's why he didn't get a call up. Same thing with Diego Lainez. He's just now maybe returning from injury. It's still not for sure that he's going to play against Tigres this weekend. But so I understand the no call for Diego Lainez. But where is Guardado? That these players, you see, I get that Guardado is probably not going to be part of the next World Cup, right? Because of his age. But if we're trying to mix young talent with experience, then Guardado, his name is still in the mix. You know what I mean? Same thing with Hector Herrera. But these two players are absent, and one has to assume that they asked to not get called up, or they were left off the list because it's kind of pointless to call them up. I don't know. But I understand. That's what I wanted to say. I understand, and I kind of agree with the whole why is Jesus Dueñas there? Why is Luis Rodriguez? Not to say that these guys are bad players, but I'm also of the sentiment that if we're looking towards the future, these players are more than likely not going to be a part of that. But once again, the interim manager is El Tuca Ferretti. These are guys that have his full confidence. They play under him in Tigres, so that's probably why they're getting the call. And once again, they're not bad players, but I would think that there are other players that probably deserve that spot. But I don't know. I don't hate the list. Another player that was questioned was Raúl Gudiño. Gudiño was pretty much the hero of the Clasico, in my opinion. He was the man of the match. Obviously, that last few seconds save that he did on Mateus Uribe's penalty to give Chivas that draw. That captured headlines, and that had him as the hero of the match. But he played the entire match. He was excellent. Now Gudiño hasn't been that great all season with Chivas. Now he did, suffer some injuries, but I know he had been taking some heat from certain Chivas fans. So Gudiño just hasn't showed that much consistency all season. But if we're looking towards the future, kind of like we did with the list for the friendlies versus Uruguay and versus the U.S., where you had players like Lainez who hadn't been starting 100% of the games for Club America. If we're just basing it off of that, then I understand a call up for Gudiño, because our three goalkeepers, Ochoa, Corona, and Talavera, they're all up there in age. Corona for sure, what is he, 39, 40, something like that. Corona is up there, 38. I don't know how old he is for sure. I think Ochoa is 32. So they're all up there in age. We definitely need new blood in the goalkeeping spot. Hugo Gonzalez, Raúl Gudiño, and Gibran Lahoud. You have to assume that at least one or two of them are going to be in the next World Cup, and we're just trying to find out who. So that's about it, man. That's pretty much all I had to say about this list. I don't mind it too much. I understand some of the sentiments, the negative sentiments, regarding some of the names that contrive this list. But until we get a full-time manager, a person to take the reins of El Tri, whether that's Bielsa or I don't know who the hell it's going to be at this point, one of the 24 candidates that, according to the FMF, they have interviewed for the spot. Until we get, our main manager, we're going to start getting lists like this, because it's Tuca, and while he's a great manager and all, he's going to call some of the guys that are of his confidence, and you're gonna get your Luis Rodriguez and your Dueñas and stuff like that. But all right, man. Now it's time to talk about El Clásico. 1-1 draw, America Chivas. The question is, did it live up to the hype, or did it fall short of expectations? My opinion is it's probably right in between, man. It wasn't bad. The Clásico wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I think towards the last 15 minutes, the last 20 minutes, that's when it really turned on. And one would hope that it was like that, the intensity of it, the back and forth. One would hope that it was like that for the full 90 minutes, at least for one half. I don't know, if you want to stay tactical in the first half and then just go all out in the second half. But that wasn't it. For a large portions of the game, for a lot of the time, it was just a lot of imposition, a lot of, just changes of possession, both teams struggling to connect 5 passes together. It changed. The ball was changing hands a ton. It was like, well, I mean, that's a basic fundamental pass, and you can't do that. So it was frustrating to watch at some points for sure. But like I said, the last 15 minutes, the last 20 minutes of the match, that's when the game was fire, man, because America had some urgency. They were taking it to Chivas, and then Chivas, the counterattack opened up for them. So that's when I really, really enjoyed the game. But overall, I think we have to be honest. I think America was the better team overall. You know what I mean? I think they had the more clear-cut chances to win the match, and they almost won the match if it wasn't for Gudiño's heroic save, and maybe you want to say Uribe's terrible penalty shot. He was under heat from his manager. I know El Piojo Herrera said, I don't know why he decided to step up and throw the penalty. He wasn't the one that was designated. I think it was Roger Martinez, the striker, who was the one who was supposed to take that penalty. He didn't. Uribe said, I'll take it. And I guess he wanted to just get rid of his demons, man, that have been haunting him since the World Cup. As we all know, he missed a penalty with Colombia that pretty much sent Colombia packing in the quarterfinals against England, if I'm not mistaken. He missed the penalty. Colombia is eliminated, and Uribe has not been the same player that he was for Club America last season. So he wanted to take this penalty maybe to exercise those demons. And what ends up happening is he misses once again a huge penalty in a Clasico, and a ton of criticism falls on him, especially from his manager. And America draws this match, but I think America was overall the better team. Now, it is important, man. You got to mention it. You got to bring it up. You got to point it out. The goal scored by Chivas should have been ruled offsides. It should have been invalidated. However, this doesn't take away from the great play by Van Ranking, who made a lot of the America defense look very, very bad. Especially Jorge Sanchez. So great play by Van Ranking. The finish was by Alan Pulido, but ultimately, he was offsides. It should have been invalidated. Not enough has been said in regards to this issue because it wasn't the other way around. I could imagine that if it was in favor of Club America, they would have raised hell. But because it wasn't Club America who scored the goal, in an offsides, not enough was said about this. So, you have to mention it. Now, this isn't about who deserved it and this and that. This is football, man. It's about it's about goals. And Chivas was effective. Chivas was definitely effective. And honestly, Chivas improved, especially in the second half. Chivas, I think early on, brought it to America early into the second half. But the first half was very tactical, very, not to say defensive by Chivas. 5 at the back. They were definitely very careful because they were taking on a lot of crosses from Cecilio Dominguez and Renato Ibarra on each wing. America could have scored on multiple occasions in the first half. They just failed to do so. And this kind of has been the same damn story for Club America this entire season. Against Puebla, you had a ton of opportunities. You let the team live, and it comes back to haunt you. Same thing with Morelia. That game got tight in a game where you should have won by at least 3 goals. But America is struggling to convert their opportunities into goals. And one has to wonder, where the hell is this new number 9, Roger Martinez, man? He has to step up at some point. I know he's coming off of injury, but like I said in the last podcast, if this keeps up, America is going to have to hit the market once again, maybe next summer, looking for a new striker, looking for that new killer number 9 to actually score, because it's been a few seasons now that America has depended on a killer, man, a killer striker that finishes chances, and this season Roger Martinez has not been that. Now, he still has a remainder of the season in the Liguilla to prove that he's the one fit for the job, but we'll see if he steps up. Overall, I think the Clasico was decent. It was good. I'll see the glass half full And I'll say the last 15 minutes, the last 20 minutes, I enjoyed them very, very much. And, that's what I will take home with me, with that feeling of the Clasico. There was a ton of drama, emotions from both sides. One team left, both teams left with a point. One of them kind of feels like a loss for Club America, and for Chivas it has to feel like a win because you were on the verge of losing this Clasico, and if it wasn't for Gudiño saving that penalty, you would have left home empty-handed. So overall, I enjoyed the Clasico. It wasn't great, but it was good. So what's next for these two teams? Well, America is facing off against Tigres, man, on Saturday. That's going to be a hell of a match because I think Tigres hasn't lost in 6 league matches. Now, Tigres just got eliminated from the Copa MX at the hands of Pachuca. So maybe they'll be looking to bounce back. That might make them a little bit more dangerous because now they only have the league to worry about. But yeah, like I said, 3 wins and 3 draws in the last 6 matches for Tigres. They're starting as usual Tigres fashion. They're starting to click, man. They usually start slow, and that's what happened this season with Tigres. But we all knew they would be okay because they usually know when it's time to step up, and that's exactly what they're doing. So it's going to be a very difficult visit to the Volcán for Club America and for Chivas. A match against Pumas, a Pumas team that hadn't won in a very long time. I think it was 35 years or something like that Pumas hadn't been able to defeat Chivas in Guadalajara. They did in the Copa MX, eliminated Chivas from that tournament or from the cup. And now they're facing off against one another in the league. So this one is going to be definitely a game that you do not want to miss because Chivas is right there, right on the verge of the qualifying spots for the Liguilla. I think they're in 9th place, if I'm not mistaken. And Pumas, they're up there in the league standings. So it should be a very, very intense game to watch. Another one that I'm looking forward to is the Cruz Azul versus Monterrey, man. Damn, a ton of good matches this Saturday, man. Cruz Azul versus Monterrey, Tigres versus Club America, and Chivas versus Pumas. Yeah, a ton of good action on Saturday night that you do not want to miss in the Liga MX. But that's also another one that I'm looking forward to because both these teams, both Cruz Azul and Monterrey, have been, you can't say they've been on a crisis, but they've been kind of slacking, man. Cruz Azul, it was expected that they weren't going to be able to keep up their form for the entire season. It's only normal, but they're still in first place of the league. So, Cruz Azul is okay, man. They're going to be okay. They're at home versus Monterrey. So this one is one that I'm definitely looking forward to watching, man. But a ton of good action on Saturday night in the Liga MX. To finish up this Express Off the Wall podcast, if you can call it that, let's talk about the Mexicans in Europe, man. Specifically the Mexicans that are disputing the Champions League. Guti and Chucky with PSV, who are not having a great time, kind of as expected, man. They're in the group of death. They faced off against Barcelona, got absolutely destroyed in that match, and then they faced off against Inter at home, and they also lost that one. Unfortunately, Inter coming from behind and defeating PSV 2-1. Chucky had an assist in that match. He tried, man. He was the one that, in my opinion, looked the best in that match, but it just wasn't enough. He cannot do it by himself. And another loss for PSV. It's going to be very difficult for them to get out of that group. One would hope at least for a third place finish. Maybe you qualify to the Europa League and you get to dispute that tournament, but it's going to be very difficult with Tottenham also with 0 points, and they're going to play for their lives. So it's going to be very difficult for PSV, in my opinion, to take anything from Tottenham because Tottenham can't afford to lose any more points. So they're definitely going to play with some urgency against PSV, and it's just not looking good for the boys. But one would hope that they could get something going and they could start playing better for for them to maybe aspire to a third place finish and maybe qualify to the Europa League, man. But on the other side, FC Porto, you got your Mexicans there. You have El Tecatito Corona and Hector Herrera. They're in first place of their group, Group D, which is probably one of the weakest groups in this year's Champions League. You have Porto, Schalke, Galatasaray, and Lokomotiv Moscow. You have them because of goal difference, I think. I think they're completely tied with Schalke. So they're completely tied with Schalke for the first position of that group, but they have 4 points. And, you know, one would expect and one would hope that they're able to get out of that group. But I'm really just worried about PSV because it's just not looking good for them, not in the Champions League. And, you know, that was kind of to be expected, though. So anyways, that's pretty much all I have for you guys. I got to get back to work. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys didn't mind the audio, the subpar audio too much. And yeah, man, let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments of, you know, if you're listening to this on YouTube. If not, just reach out to me via Twitter. If you won't follow me, it's Futbol_forever. So yeah, man, thank you guys for listening once again. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Futbol Forever out.